Good evening. Third Officer Morrow here. I am sorry, but this is the officers' promenade. No passengers allowed. Yes, very calm. No moon. I don't like that. Can't see what's coming. No moon means surprises, as if we don't have enough already. Mr. Ismay, the White Star Line's president's on board. We're walking eggshells round him, I tell you. Though that's nothing compared to the creeping about my brother-in-law's doing at the moment. His entire London office is in an uproar. Tom works in the Admiralty. Seems our plans for troop deployments against Germany disappeared 3 weeks ago. Tom says the big boys are petrified the Jerrys will get wind of it. Could upset the balance of power. Politics. Desktop espionage. Bureaucrats. Pah, give me the sea. You can toss the rest. Never have. Not since the war. South Africa. Boer War. The officer was a drinker. He was drunk when they trapped us out on the veldt. On a moonless night. It was a massacre. We never saw them coming. Drink always leads to the devil. An interesting connection. For all I know, it could be true. A man's got his troubles. Sick child, being away from home. But I hate whiners and apologizers. Well, thank you for your insight. Have a look, why don't you? Mind you, Phillips will have my head if he catches you in there, but I don't see any harm. Go on in.
Come here. What do you know? You again. Don't you love the sea air? Really clears out the sinuses. Max Seidelman, Philadelphia, PA. Buyer for Haymaker's Department Store. The shoppy of Spruce Street, they call me. What's eating you anyway? You're always in a rush. Relax, will ya? Take Max's advice. Get over it. Sure, you lose sometimes. Yell. A little. Don't dwell. You a sporting type? You look like the sporting type. Come on down to the smoking room for a nightcap. Riviera's looking for someone to play a few hands of blackjack with him. What do you say? Not much else to do. Not tonight. Brrr. Cold as a cast iron commode out here. So, what do you say? Great. First let's swing by the Parisian Cafe. There's a man there named Zeidel, a German. Claims he's a businessman, but he's got something up the sleeve all right. I know the type, believe me. Dollars to donuts, he's in some racket. So come with, why don't you? We'll hit the smoking room from there. Hey, Colonel, how you doing? Willie, like you to meet a friend.
A pleasure. Hedelitz and I, we welcome diversion during such an uneventful passage. Don't we, Willie?
Certainly.
Willie is at the University of Vienna, dissecting children's fables.
Cultural mythology, it's quite interesting. So only a junior professor, I tried to interest Dr. Freud. He's a genius, and
Yes, I am sure, quite. On the passenger list it says you embarked at Cherbourg, yet I have not seen you with the others. You were there, were you not? I see. You are British. Not so many of you in Titanic's first cabins. These days most of the rich are Americans. Businessmen like Max. Tell me, why do you go to New York? Business. How interesting, considering the British are not so good at it. Me? Inspecting our embassies. Imperial Germany desires to make a good impression in North America. Willie is continuing on, to the west, to conduct research on Aboriginal customs.
the Indians, they are fascinating.
Yes, yes. However, I place faith in science, not superstition.
The Colonel was saying this wireless stuff's revolutionizing everything. Sending messages to each other. It's the end of books and newspapers.
Like the Titanic, a technological triumph. Here we dined in comfort while racing along at 20 knots. It's still tied to the outside world by the wireless.
That reminds me, Colonel Seidel, when I go to send you a telegram, they told me it was to be delayed. There are too many messages. The passengers...
I am sure our guests do not care to hear a detailed discussion of your encounter with telegraphy. Now, if you will excuse me,
Please, excuse us.
won't you call on us tomorrow, here, in the cafe? The Linzer Tort's quite passable for a British ship. Stop by. Willie and I welcome it most heartily.
Yes, most heartily.
And before I leave, you must allow me to give you some advice. But do not wander the ship. It is not good, I think, on a ship as big as the Titanic. Good night, friends.
Good night.
See? What did I tell you? What did I say? Them two. Up to something, I'd say. The brainy kid gives me the creeps. What a grind. He should hang out with that little blonde. She's a looker, I tell you. Come on, let's hit the smoking room. I'll introduce you to Riviera. What do you say? Great. Go on up. I gotta see a man about a horse. I'll meet you in a few minutes. Goodbye.
But my dear, it's Daisy Cashmore. Surely you remember. Oh, you a naughty thing. Don't think I didn't know you'd snuck on at Cherbourg. Smethels told me all about it. The old boy's always dripping with news. Heard about Lord and Lady Lambeth. Ruined utterly. Scarcely enough left for appearances, I'm told. I always liked Georgia. Married Charles for his name and his fortune, sensible girl. But she's made her nest. Now she must live in it. Well, my dear, I've a little favor. A tiny one. Tonight at dinner, a man I don't know was making eyes at me. Be an absolute darling and find out who he is. Look him up in the passenger list. All I know are his initials, GQC. The list's someplace. Find it. I'll wait right here. Ta!
Yes, can I help you? Perhaps. As purser, I'm in charge of the Titanic's passengers. Have you a name? If you do, I can tell you their cabin number. Let me check. Aha, Mr. George Quincy Clifford, A27. I live to serve. Very good then. Good night.
Did you get it? Get his name? Clifford. Never heard of him. You don't suppose he's rich, do you? You're an angel. And I've news for you, too. While you were gone, Andrew Conkling's been asking for you. Yes, Conkling, the steel baron. God knows what he's been doing in Europe, buying it probably. And where was I? Oh, yes, Andrew Conkling asked me to pass along this. You know his wife Beatrix, the designer. Such an eye! Her clothes preserve the bust line. Couldn't be more flattering. Keeps the eye moving. Much nicer than Worth's. They're friends with Captain Smith. Smith, so handsome, so dashing. White Star's best officer, or was. He's retiring after this voyage. Couldn't be more tragic. My dear, you've blanched. Bad news? Certainly, I must... It's Mrs. Burbank!